Here comes the best, the most well-rounded, best-smelling, nothing off-limits podcast in the world. Welcome to Quadcast with Kortney Olson, the woman with the world's deadliest thighs. Let's get ready to mumble!
What's up, y'all? We're back with another episode of Quadcast, and today I have my friend in who we bumped into each other on the street on Fremont Street.
I was wearing all black, and I think I had a pirate hat on that day, and the free hugs, just ask shirt, yeah. Yeah, that's where it all began.
That's where it started. So Charles and I met on Fremont Street.
So much energy everywhere, and there's so much unknown to your left, to your right, behind you, and I mean, there's a lot of people who tell me that there's just this pocket of silence around me when I'm standing there with my shirt on, my hands behind
I can
my back.
feel that.
I felt it as well. Like, I feel protected. You know, I'm never worried about someone coming up from behind me, not just because of my stature, but also because of what I'm representing. You know, it's just peace. And, you know, even the most belligerent person sees what I'm about. And
because for people, if you don't know, Fremont Street in Las Vegas is lit. Like, you've got the Strip, but for those of you that don't know or have never been to Vegas, Fremont Street is like old downtown. And it seems to be kind of where my people that you know what I'm saying? I'm middle class through and through. It's like where the middle class and below folk go for
people who don't feel so entitled. It's just people that have a good time and love chaos.
Yes, love chaos. That's exactly right. Like, it's lit. You see, you know, all the Magic Mike type dudes and the girls with the pasties on, whipping people for change. People drawing portraits of other people. People doing stunts, magic acts.
Well, whatever hustle, whatever talents they have, they take it to a circle and they just show off. Yeah. And what I do is I just stand there with my shirt on. I don't get a circle. I feel like I've been given like a exemption because of what I do.
I was gonna say, because like I've thought about taking watermelons down there before, and I was gonna walk through with a cart one time, and I just had clothing because I was just giving out leggings, and they were like, "You can't do that," and I was like, "Ugh."
Yeah, I've been doing this for almost 3 years now.
Have you?
And the manager of Fremont Street came down to me actually on New Year's and said, "Keep doing what you're doing. This is important." And I never knew when I was going to get arrested. You know, I'm just out there. I'm like, I'm ready. If they ever come to me and say that you're not allowed to give hugs out here, you know, humanity is over, and I'm going to drop to my knees, and I'm hopefully the people are going to say, "No, what are you doing? That's not the free hugs guy." You know, like, he doesn't ask for anything. But it never happened. And I realized I've been given that exemption by the authorities around there. They actually, even though they don't actually, I mean, I've hugged lots of police officers, but they respect what I do. They know it's important. And it was just so validating when he came up to me, because I've seen him walk by with like loads of security every now and then. And I didn't know one day he's just going to come and just grab me by my arm, and I was going to have to, you know, fight for my right to give love. But I mean, I started doing this because of, you know, the masking. I started doing it because...
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, I studied vaccines for a very long time before all the...
I watched a documentary at the end of 2009 called Who Flew? WHO Flew. It was poorly produced. It was 3.5 hours long. That motherfucking shit had me so wound up. And I wrote on Facebook. I went back, found the post. I was like, I just watched the creepiest documentary about vaccines in the United States. I will never take another vaccine, on my word. Or I said on my life.
When was that?
It was December 2009. Wow. And then, of course, I did it against my better judgment, and here we are today. So, drinking a Coke Zero, asking if I want to die an early death. Coke, send me some money, you dicks. So tell us about this. The mask.
I lived in Rochester, New York. That's where I grew up.
Okay.
And before I moved to Vegas 3 years ago, and I was vehemently against what they were telling people on the news about, you know, what's happening in Wuhan and stuff like that, and, you know, trying to tell my friends, like, look, they're probably gonna they're probably going to push a vaccine on people pretty soon.
Did you feel like that it was made in a lab and you were like, this animal situation is bullshit? Or what were you?
I knew it was all bullshit. I didn't know which way. I just knew that the story that they're telling the American public is bullshit.
Intuitively?
Yes.
Yeah.
I never really understood it. I've always been a very affectionate person to like my family members. You know, I was hugged and kissed my aunts and stuff like that, and they would always be so excited when I would come around because I'd always give them love. But like it's definitely been a maturity to be in touch with my affection, because growing up looking this way, I wasn't, as I grew into my body, I had to be more, I thought I had to be more stereotypical. I had to be this big, black, hard human being, when that was never really me. I've always had a very soft interior. I always cared about everyone around me.
I love that you're saying this now too, because I don't know if you caught my post of me wrestling some guy, and I was like, I feel bad for yeah, you saw. I feel bad for men because the minute you're born into this box. You step outside of it, you're a little bitch, don't cry, breadwinner. And so it's ironic, or because we know there's no coincidences, right?
Never.
Yeah. That you're saying this now, and that it's so beautiful. Your timing is impeccable.
I was never an emotional person. My sister said that she had never seen me cry, in her 20 years of life. Through my journey of growth and understanding myself and the world around me, being able to cry was such a strengthening. To be able to, especially cry in front of a woman, was, I would watch, the Notebook and just the whole time. But being able to release and let that go, it was just so just uplifting. It's so freeing. And so like who I am now, it's been a road to get here, to be openly affectionate, to be openly loving.
And I'm hoping that this episode brings a lot of people to your platform, because what you're doing is great. And I see the random other accounts out there of people blindfolding themselves, and you don't blindfold yourself, but Charles is out there with his shirt on in these cool, funky ass outfits, saying free hugs.
I forgot my armbands. I wear color coordinated armband.
With the purple shades on, doesn't play around. And
well, it's intended because I always want to be accessible to whoever needs love that day. I walk through the grocery store, I walk through Smith's, and I want, if there's one person that needed a hug today and they see that, I want to be there for them. Like I have lots of clothes from my previous life that I don't use anymore, because I always want to be available for somebody. That's what I feel like my purpose is to change at least one person's life today. And just like what you do, like I can do it for, if I go out there and out on Fremont or on the Strip and I hug 1,000 people, like I can change 100 people's lives.
100%.
And if I can do that, why wouldn't I?
Take us back. So you were talking about Wuhan, and you knew intuitively that shit wasn't right.
Well, yeah. I had been doing backdoor research on what was the plan for humanity.
You say backdoor because you look on Google for certain shit and stuff won't come up, right? Like
it's so sad.
Shit on Hillary Clinton or
it's so sad, because I remember the old internet where you would search something and it would give you if you search an exact keyword, it would bring you exactly what
was available,
web pages contained that particular word, those words.
Do you use DuckDuckGo ever?
I honestly I mean, my friends and I prefer that, but I feel like that's compromised, just like any other search engine. It's going to take you to the suggested pages, even if it's not what you were looking for.
Yeah.
But usually, like my friends would ask me, where are you getting all this information? And I would just tell them that I go to whoever's not getting paid. If it's somebody who's being paid on CNN, Fox News, The Guardian, or any of these platforms, I usually turn a blind eye to
Right.
it. They started announcing, people are dropping dead, in China, and it's here, and you gotta hide your kids and your wife, get in your bunkers. I told my friends I'm gonna go out. It was St. Patrick's Day, 2020, and I told my friends, like, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna lick eyeballs and doorknobs, and I'm gonna show you that there's nothing to be afraid of. It's like, oh, you can't go out to, haven't you seen the news? I'm like, look, nothing's gonna happen. And I go out, and that day, as I'm walking into the first bar, this guy was wearing a free hug shirt, and I gave and I don't think I've ever, outside of like my close friends, had hugged another man, and I gave him a big hug. And my friends are just like, well, who the fuck is that? Why'd you just hug that dude? I'm just like, did you see his shirt? And I'm just like, and I'm sitting at the bar after we get in, and I'm just sitting there contemplating, like, that's what I need. Like, I've been ranting to my friends who thought I was just nuts, about, all the bullshit that's been happening in the news. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get one of those shirts, and I'm going to walk through all the stores and all around town, and I'm not going to wear this mask they want you to wear, and I'm going to see what happens. Because I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to conform. I'm not going to act like I'm afraid. I'm not going to conform. I'm not going to comply. But also, I'm going to show that other people aren't afraid too. They're just afraid to say it. They're afraid to show it. And I would walk through the grocery stores. I would walk all throughout town and in public spaces without a mask when everyone else was. And I never got any hate. All I got was people running up to me and saying, oh my God, I needed this so bad. As soon as they would just fling themselves at me, and some people would say, I wish I was that brave. And I'm just like, dude, you can do it too right now. Just take it off. But I understand the anxiety that it caused.
All of a sudden, we've quickly forgot, right? Like, to the point where, actually, a friend said this to me. I was walking through the casino at the Bellagio, and I've blown my nose, sinus infection. And he was like, I remember a couple years ago, you'd sneeze or blow your nose, and people fucking, freaking out, right? Oh, God, yeah, we don't know what exactly this is. I mean, it was so insane, right? And it's like, now all of a sudden, boom, at the drop of the hat, it ain't shit. The vaccine didn't mean anything. We were, we'll get to that, but X, Y, and Z.
The news cycle.
It's the fear that was put behind that. And then the attorney general comes out and says that isolation is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day in terms of the negative consequences on your health. And it's like, excuse me, what the fuck did you all just do for 2+ years?
And I remember one of the most jarring interactions that I had that made me really go hard on this. What made me get a shirt in all different colors was I was walking through a dollar store back in Rochester, and there was this kid, and everyone else is masked in the
because New York had it bad, but I remember, New York was kind of like the epicenter at first here in the U.S., right?
Well, yeah, especially the epicenter of regulations as well. They were, you couldn't walk into a store without they had people standing at the front and
fucking arrows and shit.
Yeah. There was a teenager that was in the dollar store, and I was just going there to get like some trinkets or something, and I was deliberately starting to make eye contact with everyone because everyone was seeing everyone else as an enemy, peering over the mask like sheepishly, like as if everybody was out to get you, and I hated it. And I remember I was walking by, and there was this kid that was walking towards me, and he saw I didn't have a mask on, and he saw I was making stern eye contact with him, and he frantically searches for his phone. And he's like, and he finds his phone, and he pulls it out, and he walks by me, and I turned around to see if, after he passed by, I turned around to see if he actually had anything to do on his phone, or if he's just avoiding human contact. If he's just avoiding a connection. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as I turned around, he put his phone right back in his pocket. And I'm just like, what is this world? I don't want this to be how the kids interact in the future, where they see everybody as their enemy, where there's no eye contact. And what you said earlier about blindfolding, I've gone out and done hugs with a couple people recently, and I remember you asked me if you could do it with me before.
Yeah.
And
Fuck
like
yeah.
I have a new confidence in doing that after doing it with these other people,
Yeah.
especially in like on First Friday, where it's like a creative mesh pot, a melting pot of people,
Right.
of artists and whatnot. But one of the guys I did it with, he said, "Oh, I was thinking about blindfolding myself," and I'm just like, "That's exactly what I don't want."
Right.
I want to connect to everyone.
Makes sense.
And 99% of people walk by me. 99% of people walk by me because they don't know what's going on. There's just some big black dude standing here with a free hug shirt on. He could just pick me up and kidnap me, like that's what's going on in people's heads, or they think that it's some kind of hustle. And even though 99% of people walk by me, I make eye contact with everyone who comes by. And just that subtle acknowledgement makes somebody's day, especially people who consider themselves like, outcasts, or, just if they think they're unfortunate looking and nobody wants to look at them. And I'm looking at them and I see them and they see me see them. And at that moment of like, they'll look up and they'll look again like, are you looking at me? And I'm like, yes. And I don't have to say it. They don't have to actually come touch me. But that moment, they smile. I'm just like, I look at them and I smile and they smile back. And I can feel their energy lift.
Damn, we got to get you a videographer. I know, me too. I don't know who comes first, but damn.
But it's such a beautiful moment. It's such a beautiful moment that I feel like I've changed that person's day, possibly life. They probably see me as a friend now. They might come back looking for me, just because I made eye contact with them. And maybe the next time they might have the courage to wave. And then the next time they might have the courage to come hug me.
100%.
But like, that's giving them the will to live. And like, I mean, I've heard so many just heartbreaking stories of people who have lost people, or they didn't want to wake up in the morning. When I hug people, I tell everybody I love them in their ear. And like, when they hear that, and then and they feel the sincerity in me, they suddenly just let it all go. They say, my son just committed suicide, and I don't know why, or I didn't want to get up this morning, or it could just be, my dad yelled at me, and but I take it all seriously. I just want to be there for them, and even though like I used to say like a hug from a stranger like is important, but I don't feel like a stranger.
Right.
Like, I feel like we've known each other forever. Everybody that I touch, like that we've had previous lives together, and that we're just being reacquainted.
Isn't that interesting too? Because you look at the percentages of people, and you're like, gosh, out of 99%, I know it's just a grab out of the sky, but let's say 1 out of 10 people might hug you. Is that a fair analysis, or would it be like 1 out of 100?
It's 1 out of 100.
Right, because you're seeing droves of people walk by on Fremont Street.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the majority even if they want a hug, even if they want,
they're still going to pass by.
Yeah,
hey,
because they don't know. They don't know. I'm an unknown, and we've been taught stranger danger,
right.
our entire lives.
Right.
And then you watch the news, and it's just perpetuating fear
100%.
Of your fellow human. It's especially someone who looks like me.
Isn't that the truth?
And
that's so wild too, because like I go on Twitter, I swear it's like the devil's butthole. You go on there for a minute and you're like, whoa. But at the same time, I have come across shit that I otherwise normally wouldn't have, because it mainstream news, and there's a lot of people on there who are independent. But you see some of the violence and all the dumb shit, kids letting off firecrackers on railway, on trains and subways and shit. And you're like, oh my God, what are we doing? But you're right. You walk down the street here, even in Wild Vegas, and it's like, except for I will say I did see some woman randomly shove some dude and was like, you fucking walked into me. And I was like, what the fuck? This shit's crazy. But other than that, I haven't seen anything, and you're right.
The thing is, like, that woman who shoves that person.
Yeah.
That's just a very, very small minority. That's
right.
0.001%.
Right. When you break it down, you're right.
And, but you remember that.
That's right. You tell the motherfucker 5 things, 4 good, 1 bad. They're gonna remember the one bad thing you said about him.
Yeah, and it's
that's
so
what's up.
It's so unfortunate though.
Shit.
Because you get 100 compliments, and,
right?
And then you remember that one. Even me, like,
yep.
I can count on one hand in the hundreds of thousands of people I probably hugged. On one hand, how many negative experiences I've had.
Right.
And yet I remember them.
Right.
I remember them.
Right. Isn't that a trip?
Yeah.
Humans are fucked up, hey.
And then but because we're taught to protect ourselves from that.
Right.
If something causes us anxiety or fear or
run from that shit.
Yeah, and so you don't want to repeat that. So you don't want to put yourself in that position again. So you'll say, "Oh, I won't be vulnerable again."
Right.
And that's why so many people put up these walls and don't connect to people because they've removed vulnerability from their life and they think that they're happy, but really vulnerability is what gives you happiness. At least for me it is.
It's like connectivity.
Yeah, to connect to people.
Yeah.
And that's why there's, why depression is so rampant now as well. At least that's what I believe, is because people can't connect to each other, or they feel like they can't be their authentic self.
Right. We're writing this one down, by the way. Vulnerability equals connectivity.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us, going back to New York when you were there and you knew shit was off. Like, had you been into, I want to say the trenches, I want to call them the rabbit holes. I'm not sure what to refer to them as. But for me, it started in 2008, like I said, actually it was 2007. I watched I Am Legend with my ex. And for whatever reason, that prompted us to go. This was back in the good old days when YouTube, you could jump on one shit and it led to another, to another, to another, to another. Yeah. Right. And then all of a sudden it was 4 a.m. and I'm like, oh my God, I got to pick a religion. Because I was freshly sober too. And I'm like, I don't want to go to hell. And, the one, I think it started with like these giant skeletons that were unearthed. Right. And then it was like the Anunnaki and the fallen angels and what's all this shit. And then that led to like the Denver airport, and all the underground tunnels and what do we call them? DUMBs, deep underground, whatever.
I didn't know there was an acronym for them.
Yeah, it's an acronym.
DUMBs, it's called.
Yeah, DUMBs or DUMBs, deep underground military something or another. I forget the guy's name that I'm reading his book. It's called Behold a Pale Horse, or is it Behold a Pale White Horse?
I've heard of that.
Yeah, when I'm done, I'll it started to get a little too deep for me. I was like, whoa.
Beyond the Pale Horse? Is that it?
Yeah, Beyond the Pale Horse.
I haven't read it yet.
I think it was him that was in one of these underground bases because he had super high clearance. Yeah, safety clearance with the Navy after he'd served in the Air Force. And, had reported seeing UFOs come out of the ocean. And what that whole process was like, coming up, back on shore and then getting berated by some upper general, and they never saw anything, and just one thing after another. And he ended up like going out by having a shootout with some sheriff department. I forget, but basically he was, just seemed like a good old fashioned truth seeking Christian loving, loved his family, was married to a Vietnamese lady. They had a daughter together. That was his life. And he just wanted the pursuit of freedom and happiness for all people. And so, yeah, it was interesting, but
it's so sad that so many truth seekers have met their demise.
Isn't it wild? We're just going to say both of us right now, we are not suicidal, okay? Despite my perimenopause from time to time. No, we're here to share free hugs and love and enlightenment and keep people's minds open. So if either one of us ends up getting taken out, I need you all to fucking light this bitch on fire.
Oh yeah, I love life.
Yeah.
I love life, and that's part of what I try to impart on people is how simple life can be.
Right.
How if you just remove all these insignificant things that you feel that you need, the material and the judgment, the approval of society, like it's all counterproductive to happiness, and yet that's what we're told that we need all the time.
Yeah.
But like what you were saying about the guy from Beyond the Pale Horse, like as soon as you said like he met his end, I'm just like, I saw this quote a friend of mine sent me a quote from Princess Diana recently, and I had never seen it. I didn't know much about her. I just know that she was all loving and possibly, one of us, basically.
Oh, basically, yeah. Yep.
And there was this quote saying that she was saying that I am all loving, and that I will be that today, tomorrow, and the next year. And like, she was so sincere about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's why she had to go.
Right.
Like, she cares too much.
Right.
She cares too much about other people. And if you're in that sort of have that notoriety and you have that influence,
Yep.
and you aren't, walking the straight line as
Right.
all the others, all the other governmental bodies are doing, then you're a threat.
Yeah.
And you have to go. And it's so sad. As I read that, I'm like, oh, I love her so much more now that I read that.
I remember watching some deep shit on that. And of course, it's like the fact that I can't remember my short-term memory. I guess this would even be considered long-term memory because this would have been 12, 13 years ago. But I can't remember any of this shit. And I also think it's because of, as being a recovered alcoholic and addict, I pick up other things. And I haven't, formulated a daily meditation practice and have gotten myself reprogrammed to calm down because I'm so driven by changing the world that I'm like constantly want to do this and do that and like help people. And you're like, well, is this being driven from codependency from fucking childhood, from like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of shit to look at, but at the same time, I'm like, damn, the fact that I can't remember, but I remember, I think it was through David Icke. I used to watch a lot of his content and, going into, where Queen Elizabeth had, originated from and like Nazi salutes. And, I've seen some pretty wild shit. Even when, like, I was going to say, you were talking about her needing to go because she was so full of love. I remember in those early days too, I can't remember who the YouTuber was. He had a great ass channel, but he was talking about one of these videos with like Tupac and Biggie saying like, we realized, man, we squashed our beef basically because we realized we had so much influence over the entire world and our nation on this East and West beef was just out of hand, man. And then like they both ended up dying.
And you have to go.
So I was like, Illuminati, like, how do people not sit down and like piece all this shit together? Selling their souls to the devil and shit. Like, we've been watching it since 2008. Like, it's almost been 20 years.
You have to sell your soul to maintain that lifestyle.
Tell us what you think, like, in general. Like, we know we watched what happened with COVID. So how do you feel like this all aligns in terms of our humanity, where we started, what's being hidden from us, and and I say there, and I suppose that can mean different things for different people, but what in your heart of hearts do you believe intuitively is the end game, and do we have hope? I mean, like, that's a big ass loaded question, but like, take us on that journey.
It's sad, the answer that I have.
Yeah.
I feel with the advancements in AI that they don't need workers anymore. They don't need so many humans.
Yep.
And
have you always believed that depopulation is part of their agenda? Absolutely.
And I went down the rabbit hole in 2001.
So it's 2001?
September
9/11. Right.
And the evil that I saw, I didn't know existed.
Right.
I thought I had always trusted the government. I was a very studious kid, and my family used to believe that I was going to be the first black president and all that.
A dog.
Far from it now.
I know, right? Right.
But like it was really jarring. It was really jarring to me when I was trying to make sense of what I was watching on the news. And
how old were you? How old are you now?
I am 36 now.
Okay, so we're similar, almost.
And so I was in high school, and
and
sophomore in high school.
Yeah,
and
freshman in college.
It
makes sense.
It caused me to go down the rabbit hole of what's really happening. Why isn't anybody asking any questions about what just happened here?
Right.
And why is everybody just trusting what they're saying when it doesn't make any sense? And so, and I've always been inquisitive. I've always questioned things. I remember when I was younger, I used to think that I was the only one who had consciousness. I'm like, oh, everyone else must just be, this is just my world. This is when I'm like 4 years old. I'm like, there's no way other people could see the world I do, the same way I do. But
Wow.
now that I'm egoless, I realize that we're all on our journeys here, and we all just have different routes to enlightenment and whatnot.
You said ego list. We're going to have to park that and come back to that because I would love to know how you got to that point. But
Shrooms. Like I was saying, I've always been all loving and affectionate, but that broke me.
No
the experience
shit.
of doing a heavy dose of mushrooms
Yep.
was so ego breaking and enlightening.
Damn, dog.
And it changed. That's why I'm here.
That's fucking crazy. My nephew, who I did a podcast with, I mean, we were in like a hotel with these shitty ass mics, and unfortunately, I don't know if I can ever do anything with it, but he came out and saw me and my husband in Thailand when he was 16, and he was so lost and such a mess, and we all thought I thought he was autistic because he couldn't make eye contact and would just carry on about the fucking, like, obsess on the spiciness level. I forget what the number's called on different peppers.
Scoville?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what's
yeah,
up.
yeah.
He would go on, and I'm like, can you not read anybody's? Do you know what I mean? So
Can't read the
long,
room,
can't read the room. Long story short, I got him started doing CrossFit, and he blossomed a lot. But what happened was he about the age of 19, I'd say, started with psychedelics, and now he is 22, but you might have seen him on my Instagram. Actually, he was breaking down how we don't live in a democracy, it's a republic. Yeah, he's so fucking smart, and I was blown away to learn that he was suicidal when he was visiting me because he'd been sexually assaulted by his friends. I think it was his friend's older brother or his friend or at the age of 7, and they were both the same age, and there was, he said mushrooms brought him back from the brink. And yeah, he's literally now like just, I mean, what the fuck? It blows my mind. So to hear you say that, it's fascinating. And of course, like, right, so why is all that shit banned? That's our link to our pineal gland, right?
Exactly. And
that shit's calcified.
Yes.
Motherfucking, we know, right?
Asleep.
Hitler was spraying fluoride on concentration camps to dumb people down, right?
America's America's one of the only countries that has fluoridated water, countrywide, and it's for our teeth. That's bullshit. Yeah. It's so that we don't see what's happening around us. This experiment that's crumbling right now.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. Except for you did say you were saying you don't think the outcome or your answer is great because they don't need worker bees anymore.
Yeah, and it's.
Do you think they're harvesting our energy in terms of like being worker bees, or do you think that it's not beyond that? Like, do you think we're in a simulation, like a Matrix type shit?
Well, I know that we're in that there are, through mushrooms especially, I knew there was God. I knew that there was something more to this existence, to our consciousness. I was no longer afraid of dying because I just feel like this was just a vessel. I knew that this was just a vessel. Like, I knew intuitively afterwards. And as someone who was atheist before, and all that I've gone through in my life, like I used to be suicidal when I was young, going through just being outcast, not feeling like I belonged.
How many kids are in that position right now, and they're being told they're in the wrong body?
It's fostering suicidal tendencies, and I feel for them because they want to feel belonging. They want, they tell kids now that that it gives them their power. It gives them power that they've never had. You know, as a kid, you always want to be an adult.
Right.
And suddenly you say, I want to be called this. And then you are suddenly, you have the power. You have,
Shit, I never thought about it like that.
yeah, and so they hold on to their identities, you know, because
Right.
we all want to identify as a part of the community somehow, and so they create their own, and then they feel important, and they hold on to that, but it's not real. It's not real belonging. They still don't feel a part of the collective, and my depression when I was younger was because I was big, and I was big, black, and I was smart, and and I wasn't supposed to be like,
Wow.
and I spoke fluent English, and I was teased for it, like in my neighborhood, you know, like, and I realized now, I was like, wait, you're making fun of me, like they would say that, why do you talk white? And I'm like, wait, they were teasing me because I spoke proper English. Like, what kind of de-evolution is this? that's what we would be teased about. And now understanding that being able to communicate properly is never a weakness, is another strengthening thing for me. You know, it's just but like the anxiety that I had when I was young about it. You know, I would code switch, as they call it. You know, where I would talk hood when I was with black people, and then when I was with my white friends, I would talk properly, and that sort of, you're never able to be your authentic self. You know, you're trying to fit into all these boxes. A friend of mine just told me recently, you should never make yourself smaller to fit into a box that other people are making for you. And I had never thought about it that way, because, you know, a part of what I do here is try to inspire people to be themselves. You know, that's what I love about this town, is it's just so many characters that have come here just to be themselves. You know, like, I couldn't be myself in Idaho, so I came here, I dyed my hair blue and whatever. Like, I love that people just come here to be themselves for a couple days or the rest of their lives. And I feel like that's also why I'm here, because all the times that I used to visit Vegas, like, I would love that I could just be wild, or I could just say what I want to say, and other people were vulnerable and forthcoming and honest, and I'm like, why can't we just all be that all the time? And after I did mushrooms, I saw the desert, and I heard a voice say, "What are you waiting for?" That's why I'm here.
Fuck. Can you see? I haven't had the camera on my face, but I'm like, mouth just hanging open. I was like, wow, my throat's getting kind of dry. Damn. Well,
I've been ranting for a minute.
No, hearing you talk about the stereotypes and code switching and the male perspective and the masculinity and coming here, I mean, legit, like, City of Las Vegas should sponsor this episode, because that is like the gist of Las Vegas explained.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna need to.
I mean,
I'm like, I'm getting out my phone, and I'm gonna say this. So the City of Las Vegas, the free hugs guy, literally just summed up exactly what Las Vegas is about, and we're recording a podcast, so holler, y'all are going to need to sponsor this episode, because as Charles said, people come to Las Vegas and they get to be their authentic self. They get to let go, they get to say what they want, dress how they want, be how they want, have truth and honesty and vulnerability, right? It's Vegas, like, let loose. He just spit some mad game, and that's going to be your next campaign, because Down for Anything for Downtown was dope as shit. But this, I'm telling you, just stand by. Anyway.
No, I you know, and I that's why so many people remember their Vegas trip so fondly. It's just because they didn't have to worry about, you know, running into, you know, Karen from HR, you know, at the bar, or where, you know, out on the strip, and they could just be, you know, they can say they can approach that guy that they wanted to, or that girl that they wanted to, and say what they wanted to say, and actually advance, and be vulnerable for just a couple minutes. But like, because the worst thing that could happen is someone says no,
Right.
And then hopefully, I always hope that people take that lesson back home and just say, just go for it with whatever you want to do in life. Is just say, what's the worst that could happen? I get a no.
Right. We all are so afraid of that word, right?
Oh yeah, and what I was talking about earlier about the 99% of people walking by me.
Yeah.
I was never okay with rejection when I was younger. Like I used to avoid putting myself in a vulnerable position because I was afraid of some girl telling me no. And
I wonder how many men are in that boat.
Oh, I mean,
we never stop to think about it. I mean, I see posts every rare now and then that's like, from a guy's gaze perspective, point of view, where that fear of rejection I'd never, and then as a girl, right, because you don't think about it until you're in it, or you have someone close to you goes through something similar, or you just have this basic ass conversation where you're like, oh yeah, fuck, men have to deal with rejection on such a deeper level that women, I don't think we can even begin to remotely appreciate, because you're all not even allowed to fucking talk about it.
Yes.